forums we sit in, use the national administration to communicate that, use the politicians when they do their barazas, let that information trickle down. Of course, we still have many more hospitals to equip. Personally, I'm very passionate about health, and I know that happens because many women are the beneficiaries of this equipment. When you talk free maternity, we have had double the number of women deliver in hospitals when you compare with 3 years ago. Double the number. What does that mean? It translates to less maternal deaths. In fact, it has gone down from 300 to 500 to 300 per 100,000 live births. Those are the statistics I want us to look at, so that we also don't put condemnation in a nation that nothing is moving. We also, it is our responsibility to actually explain this to people and give them hope also that we need to get it to as low as possible. We don't need a woman to die giving birth. And you know, this relationship with infrastructure, when you talk maternal health, you talk infrastructure. When we see some roads that had been neglected for years, when we see Wajir do their first tarmac road, what does that mean? It means more pregnant women will reach the hospital
in time.
And that translates less maternal deaths, less mortality of children. I think that is good success. And it is not over. You cannot say now we have done, that is it. It is not going to stop. It's going to improve, and we expect it to improve. We don't need these 300 kids to die out of 100,000 births. So this communication is what I'm talking about. It does not need an elaborate PowerPoint presentation. No, it doesn't. It needs communication through the most local channels to be able to communicate this to the people.
All right, and at this point, I'd just like to open up the phone lines, and this is also just to anchor on what you're saying. This communication, has it reached you where you are? When we talk about the road, the 10,000-kilometer roads that were supposed to be done, and how many have been done, the Mwananchi is the one who feels that effect, whether it has been done or not, and we'd like to hear from you. If you've got a question or comment, we'll welcome you to make your call now, and the phone lines are going to be displayed. But let me come to you, Dismas Mukua, on your expectation of the State of the Nation address this afternoon. Given it looks like there was a choreographed arrangement of events. We had the CS symposium, we had the Deputy President. Have they preempted maybe what the President is going to say? Is he just going to come maybe and sign off what they have already said?
Well, that was, they must be, you know, they've given themselves responsibilities. And first, may I congratulate Martha, because, you know, from our conversation, you actually wonder whether she's a member of Jubilee, because she's very honest. She's calling a spade a spade. And I don't know whether she gets the opportunity to engage with the President and the Deputy on this kind of matters. Because while on the other hand, Dual is saying we have achieved 70%, speaking more like a sycophant, she is very sober. But looking at what we expect of the President today, when you look at Section 10 of the Kenyan Constitution and 132, it's supposed to address the national values. And some of these things, you're not able to place a figure on them. Like, for instance, when you talk about equity and in distribution of national resources, you talk about justice, and you talk about national cohesion. It may be the case that the cabinet secretaries and the DP have spoken a lot, but what the people are looking forward to the President this evening is to give the nation hope, because right now people are really worried. We don't know whether we know where we are going. It's as if we are in a plane without a pilot, you know, flying rudderless, and we need to be reassured. There was a survey done a few weeks ago that Jubilee, Martha's colleagues condemned, that 53% of Kenyans believe that we're headed in the wrong direction.
That depends what newspaper you read.
Well, you know,
You know, it depends on which newspaper you read.
Even if you look at the other figure, it's still 47%, but still that's a huge number. And the expectation would be for the President to tell us that since he took over, what is he working on to address national cohesion? And national cohesion is so important, so that people, when you read an article by Dr. David Ndii, you don't start a hashtag that arrest Dr. David Ndii, because it's calling a spade a spade. And these are issues that you cannot ignore, because there is a section of Kenya which feels excluded. And more important would be the issue of the cost of living. It's so disappointing in Kenya that our interest rates are approaching 30%. When you have that kind of an interest rate regime, you cannot do any business. And the only business which then becomes lucrative is if you know somebody at NYS or the Youth Fund, and you go and you steal public funds. And one would expect the President to really work hard and maybe support that bill by Honorable Jomo to bring down the rates, because it's so disappointing that the rates are 30%. And when you look at our banks in Kenya, they make profits which are not even They're not super profits, they're just obscene. And one would expect that the National Assembly and the Senate would begin to question these banks, because how do you make this kind of profits? And the only sector which is growing in Kenya, it's telecom and banking. The rest of the sectors are collapsed. And then now maybe Martha should go and ask the president, how come South Korea has got an interest rate regime of 1.75, and yet people in that country are really complaining that the rates are very high, while in Kenya it's approaching 30 and it's business as usual. And another thing that the president needs to do is to tell us that he's going to kill. There's almost incest taking place in Kenya. The relationship between the State House and the Senate, the judiciary, and the media has become so terrible that the presidency has got its way on everything that they want to do.
On what basis do you make that conclusion?
And you know, he's telling me to go and tell the president, still making a counter argument.
No, because, you know,
so I'm a bit confused.
I'm trying to look at the two sides.
How have you based that argument that the media, judiciary, and all those are?
Okay, let's look at the Senate first, where Senator has got a lot of interest. You have Uhuru. Uhuru did not win this position on merit. He lost an election. He lost an elective seat. And then he was almost unpicked, and he was told, now run with this show.
He won the election for the speakership.
I mean, you know, you talk about the terrain of numbers. Yes, he won the election.
No. He won squarely. You know, you also don't impute improper motive on an office holder. I don't think that's right.
Well, if I may...
It was a competitive process. And you know, Kapara was also there. I mean, he won fairly, fair and square.
So but you recall there was a parliamentary group meeting before that, and people were told to vote in a particular manner. And you know, the same happened with the National Assembly.
But in all fairness, this must, if he won, and he won with numbers, really we can't argue with that. Whether it was tyranny of numbers, he still won.
But the point I'm trying to make is sometimes is a kind of decisions and is leadership. Whatever the important issues to be discussed, you realize that the two speakers, sometimes they don't take decisions or rulings that are in the public interest. So that means that when you're supposed to...
Isn't there a legal framework that guides that decision making such that they cannot go outside the law?
They've got a lot of discretion. You know, sometimes these things are not, it's not pure science.
Yeah, even more importantly, you know, coming from his argument, I would then assume, since Uhuru and Speaker Muturi were both Jubilee speakers, so to say, from the tyranny, it should then be smooth running. But we've had runs in, runs out with the speakers and with the two houses. That shows how independent these institutions are. The assumption should be, if both of them are Jubilee, then we won't have problems at all. They would be waiting to hear what does the president want to do, and they will do that in Parliament. It has not happened. Okay. We have had disagreements with the speakership of National Assembly. We've had disagreements, the National Assembly members accusing the Senate, so it does not add up. The correlation must then be clear that if it's Jubilee, we should see a smooth running, which has not been the case. Which has not been the case.
Okay, and maybe not to digress from the main topic here and, you know, concentrate on the speakers. Coming to you, Senator, and Jubilee has been accused of having a very good PR strategy so far, but very little in delivery. What would your comments be on that, given that the opposition even now is threatening to boycott the State of the Nation address today, based on the fact that they say this is just another PR exercise?
One thing I want to remind the nation, and the misguided notion that the president is coming to address Parliament as the leader of Jubilee. No, he's not. He's coming to address Parliament as a constitutional requirement, as the state, as the head of state. I think we need to separate these two things. That we don't expect that Uhuru Kenyatta will come to Parliament to represent Jubilee. Of course, Jubilee is in government, but he represents every person, whether you're in COD area, whether you voted for him. The 5 million or the 5 or so million who voted for the COD leader should be represented in this address, and I think that is the most important thing. This propaganda, and it was there even last year, it was there the year before, that we will not listen to him because he's the Jubilee leader. People must not be hypocritical. We must tell Kenyans the truth, that he's coming to address us as the head of state. We require, it is our duty as Parliament to sit and listen and later critique in Parliament. You don't go to Uhuru Park to shout and you have a seat you have been chosen or you have been elected in your constituency to represent people in parliament. If you do that, then you're absconding your duty to actually go outside City Hall to make noise. You have the chance to listen to this address and critique. In fact, we have a whole session to critique in Parliament this State of Nation address. And that is not limited to just Jubilee. It is for every member of Parliament. And I want to thank some of them because last year there was a talk of boycotting, but members stood up. Individual members stood up. It's only a few who boycotted. All the others, even CORD members, realized he's the head of state, and they actually showed up. If you don't do that, then this delegated power you've been given by the Constitution to represent your people, you'll be doing injustice. And I also want to comment about national cohesion in terms of something that Mokua had raised. In terms
can I just pause you a little bit because I want to take a call from Samuel Wesonga, I believe, who's calling from Meru. Samuel, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, go right ahead, Samuel.
Well, to me, according to what we're having on the table,
sorry?
I would wish to award the Jubilee government a 6.
A 6, okay.
The reason as to why I think I can give them a 6, we look at their promises. Upande wa umoja, kwa kiasi fulani naona naweza nikasema kwamba rais amejaribu kama rais, not as a Jubilee leader, to try to reach the other part, like I say, as you can see, if we can try to evaluate and analyze his trip to these other areas, they're so likely to be the cold areas. The president has tried very much to be in the coast. We've made a number of trips to the coast and the Nyanza region and even the western region. And I think he's been doing this one in the capacity of the president.
Okay.
That one is trying to see that he's trying to reach all. And when we look at the appointments in the government, as at now we can see almost all the communities represented in different capacities.
Okay, so Samuel, just to cut you short, you're giving government 6 out of 10, and mainly because of Umoja. They've done well as far as you're concerned when it comes to affirmative action.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Samuel. Let me also take a call from George Otunga in Makueni. Good morning, George.
Good morning to you.
Yes, go right ahead, George.
My name is George Otunga from Makueni. I teach I'm teaching in a small school in Makueni.
Okay.
Yes, so it is very true that the government could not have given us as laptops while we did not have the infrastructure.
Okay.
So this issue of the ulabalo of the laptops should cease because I know the government is doing something good.
Okay.
And it will be in place because now we have power. Like these remote schools did not have power before.
Okay, so where you're calling from, you did not have power, but now you have power.
Yes, now the school has been connected to power, so the laptops will be able to be used.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so on a scale of 1 to 10, would you rate them, or are you happy with the government so far?
I'll give them 7.
7.
But I have a special message to the senator.
Okay.
I've not seen the president in Makueni for a very long time. So I would wish to invite the president to come to Makueni and specifically issue us with the title deeds.
Okay. Well, yes. Senator has had your request, and hopefully she'll forward it. Maybe even the president is watching right now and has had you. But let's take a call from Mutacho, then we come back to the panel. Mutacho, good morning. Good morning, Mutacho.
Morning.
Yes, go right ahead.
Yeah, I would like also to contribute to this debate. And
yes.
First, I could rate the Jubilee government performance.
Okay.
By giving them a 4 out of 10. And this one, the 4 comes from this level that the government have tried at least to on the side of electricity. Actually, the electricity has moved around the country, mostly to the schools, though not all the schools. That's one. And 2, on the foreign policy, they have tried not all that well, but they have tried, giving that they have failed in the Migingo issue. but most other places they have tried.
Okay.
And